Now it's time for another edition of What Would Jello Do? Yeah, I have to weigh in as being part media and becoming the media and all that about, yes, Trump's attacks on the press as the enemy of the people has really got some of the press spooked and some of the people too, to the point where a guy went down with a gun and killed people at the Capitol Gazette in Annapolis, Maryland. So I can kind of see why now the Boston Globe led the way. I think it was them running a senatorial, no, the press, we're good. We're essential to democracy. We're not fake news like he says it is. And Trump did tell Leslie Stahl in 60 Minutes, or she claimed off camera, you know why I do it? I do it to discredit you all and demean you all, so when you write negative stories about me, no one will believe you. Fake news, fake news, fake news. The problem is there is an uphill climb with our corporate media because they do traffic in a hell of a lot of concocted fake news where you can't tell the difference between the news and a reality show or elections and professional wrestling. I've said this all before for years, but now I have to say it again. I even think fake news is the world's second oldest profession, and it goes way back with our own corporate media. Weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, look what that led to. Gulf of Tonkin incident that LBJ used to get us into Vietnam and escalate the war. They later admit, la-di-da, that incident never really happened. No big deal after 50,000 Americans, 2 million Vietnamese die as a result. And before that, there was the infamous William Randolph Hearst, where a boat blows up in the harbor in Cuba. Remember the Maine, the name of the ship. Remember the Maine. Let's have the Spanish-American War. And later they go down to the wreck and find out it was a boiler explosion and those wicked Spaniards didn't blow it up at all. And Hearst was also a blueprint for what Trump and people like Goebbels and Bannon and Stephen Miller do with immigration when he had his great yellow peril scare about Chinese people and all who were banned from coming into this country for years and years and years as a result. The whole stock market crashes. The Great Depression happens. People are really, really desperate and miserable. They try to do damage control so that nobody wants to go lynch the Wall Street robber barons who caused the Great Depression and instead are cowering under their beds over cartoon desperado outlaws in the small towns in the Midwest, small-time bank robbers like Public Enemy #1, Wall Street No, John Dillinger. Again, fake or at least slanted news. Then there was the evolution of Ronald McReagan, where the first couple times he ran for president, he was always shown scowling and treated as kind of a warmonger and a nut. In other words, kind of accurately. But then when it was time to really pounce and get that corporate coup rolling a little bit faster, in 1980 when Carter was so vulnerable, suddenly all you saw was pictures of Reagan smiling, making us feel good. Winston Smith showed me the cover story, kind of introducing him to everybody in Newsweek, where the grinning picture of Reagan in the middle, he pointed out the sex subliminals in the face, and then all these pictures surrounding it. Here he is as a young athlete. No, that's the Gipper from a movie. Here he is warmly talking to a crowd with all the protest signs blotted out in the background, but not well enough so that we couldn't see them. And then once he stormed in, then another issue of Newsweek was called American Renewal. You know, make America great again. And all these arrows with the stars like red, white, and blue going down either across or the bottom, maybe even the top of the page too. I don't remember. Exact same angle as penises. Page after page after page. I remember when these publications, to some degree they were independent, and especially the TV networks, they weren't all owned by global corporation who have a vested interest in dumbing down news coverage, not just to save money, but also to keep people less and less informed. No more documentaries like The Selling of the Pentagon or all those great exposés that CBS and NBC and ABC were trying to outdo each other with clear through the Watergate era. Ben Begdickian wrote several editions of a book about this called The Media Monopoly, pointing out who was buying out not just TV news, radio news, but book publishing, even school textbooks, and it was getting concentrated in less and less and less people owning the whole thing, which of course meant they could dumb down the news and have less and less actual news. He documented that too as time went on. And so I've had examples of this over the years, and I'm glad I saved them. Here we go. Here's what we should be worrying about. Who deserves to die? Can we still believe in miracles? Why TV is good for kids? Why we should teach the Bible in public school? Propaganda, anyone? Save the planet with Schwarzenegger, while meanwhile Earth First, which I was involved in and support to this day, are portrayed in the San Francisco Examiner as a plot to eradicate humankind. Right. No, what you really need to be worrying about isn't climate collapse. No. Staying forever young. 'Tis the season for shopping. Britain, of course, is a class by itself. I don't have to show, but this is a pretty good example. Here's one, Rupert Murdoch's publication, of course. Can't forget that one either. On and on. But then you got to get people cowering under their beds so they don't start asking questions, kind of like now. Are music and movies killing America's soul? I hope so, because otherwise our soul is going to turn into things like the new age of angels. 69% of Americans believe they exist. What in heaven is going on? What in heaven is going on when, meanwhile, Newspeak is young Americans return to God? Guess which kind? Meanwhile, here's a generation that forgot God. It's those goddamn 60s again, and all that free love and cool music and cool drugs. But back to one nation under God, and notice the art in this one. I mean, Goebbels couldn't have done it better. But then, oh, maybe God is dead after all. And if God isn't dead, how about, is feminism dead? They always did love beating up on feminism. And here, to show their example, they've got three indisputably courageous pioneers, feminist icons, Susan B. Anthony, Betty Friedan, and Gloria Steinem, next to what they said was the symbol of modern feminism of the day, a fictional TV sitcom character named Ally McBeal. Fake news has been around for a long time. Oh, here's something to be afraid of. Rap rage. And who are we supposed to be scared of? Tone Loc. Oh, a couple of years later, here comes another one. When is rap too violent? Snoop Doggy Dogg. Ah! And then they really go overboard to pump up wars, especially the Gulf War. It wasn't enough that we got hit with Gulf War trading cards and things. Schwarzkopf is in here, state-of-the-art stealth bomber. Under intelligence file, they list Christianity. Yeah. But then the war was over and they had to have a big propaganda feast to rescue the Daddy Bush presidency. So the USA Today was saying 1 million people expected for Schwarzkopf's return to, I think it was Tampa, Florida, or that area. People are bracing for the throngs that's going to be broadcast live. And sure enough, it was. And people were saying, oh yeah, look at all the throngs on the streets. All these people turned out. And somebody was there and told me, hey, wait a minute, I was watching this and they were talking about my block and there was nobody there. And then they herded everybody into what was then called Houlihan Stadium for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers into one end of the stadium so they could make it look like it was a full stadium. Yeah. All to go along with heroes of the war, Norman Schwarzkopf. Both parties want him to run for president now. The 15 most intriguing people, rah, rah, rah. Did it again later. Mission accomplished by the Top Gun. Need I say more? Now it is so dumbed down that even when I too admit I'm kind of addicted to the Trump narcotic, if you will, what did he do wrong today? All you get when you try to get any kind of news is one or two stories for the whole newscast. Often it's not Trump, Trump, Trumpity, Trump, 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 which is all by design. You needed to get, distract from, say, Puerto Rican hurricane or children being thrown in cages. You need another tirade from Trump to take it all away. And then the wannabe Fox News, namely CNN, I don't know why he whines about them so much. Blit Butzer, perfect example. Constantly electioneering for Romney in 2012. And then in 2016, Hillary Clinton's emails and all that highlighted as a bigger scandal than the whole Trump campaign. And of course, no mention of Bernie Sanders at all. Not even, oh, look at what that crazy guy did today. No, we don't want that crazy guy. We want this crazy guy. That's who you want, America. And then they have almost all of them now, and now that you have the little basics, let's go to our panel of experts. And more of the experts look like they came from modeling agencies or maybe even the Barbie doll factory. Hardly anybody old or not Hollywood attractive ever gets on anymore, even though they may have a lot more wisdom and a better memory about these things. And of course, if they can, they've got the babe with the sleeveless dress and the biggest boobs sitting so you see her on the left, which is stage right and all. And then you've got the Blit Butzer, whoever on the other side. What do we do about all this but see through it, know that mixed in with fake news in some cases is real news, and in the end, we all believe what we want to believe. That's where it's both the beauty and the beast, and it's so important to teach people how to spot the lies, spot the propaganda, get more than one source, make up their own mind, and not be afraid of their own intelligence or curiosity. And no matter how much one thing is parroted, weapons of mass destruction, we had to invade, blah, 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 remember what the truth really is. Even Rachel Maddow keeps parroting the phrase when Donald Trump was elected. He was never elected. The Trump regime stole the election, not through just through interstate cross-check and through Putin and everything else, but of course the Electoral College, and people keep forgetting, oh, he's so popular, even though he lost by several million votes. He was not elected, nor was George W. Bush elected either time. Both those elections were stolen, as well documented by Greg Palast, which also means, of course, that Bush becoming president instead of Al Gore was never the fault of Ralph Nader. They had that parrot machine going the day after the election because they planned it in advance, I guess, making that kind of an excuse instead of actually trying to go talk to the African Americans in North Florida as well as South Florida and turn the thing around. I could go on, but the point is, grow your bullshit detectors, remember the truth even when the lies or the coloring gets parroted over and over and over again by people who should know better, and don't let other people fall for this stuff. Journalism, media is not the enemy, never was, never will be. Just gotta use our own smarts to sift through it all and decide what's real.